Hello and welcome to another video on how to revise for your exams. In this video we're going to be looking at ways of preventing the mind going blank through hunger, starvation, malnutrition, thirst, dehydration, that kind of thing. A common myth when we struggle to learn something or struggle to get ideas in our head is that we need quote unquote brain food. A simple internet search of brain food gets you all sorts of advice like eating blueberries, eating nuts or pumpkin seeds or oily fish. All this stuff, as far as I can see, a simple Google Scholar search suggests that there's no scientific backing to any of these claims. And while all these are healthy foods, unless of course you're allergic to the ingredients, I don't think they do anything to help with cognition and recall. That being said, I can assure you that no matter how many blueberries you eat, it's not going to make up for lack of revision. So the same advice: revise little and often, test yourself regularly, eat a sensible, balanced, varied diet, get the right amount of fluids and the right amount of sleep. That's probably the best advice you're going to get. While the brain is very hungry for energy and is sensitive to loss of energy, the body makes the brain the highest priority for resources, so being a little hungry doesn't result in a significant loss of cognition. That being said, an empty stomach and or a hunger headache can be a distraction during an exam, so it can't hurt to take some nibbles into the exam with you so long as you clear it with your examination centre. A lot of people think they can't take food or drink into the exam hall, but for the most part you can. The key though is to make sure the food is not distracting to other people, nothing loud or crunchy and nothing smelly. If you're taking pre-packaged food, take the labels off so you can't be accused of cheating. While hunger doesn't significantly affect cognition, starvation most certainly does. The body can go very well if in the excitement of exam day you forget to eat, but the effects of long-term calorie restriction such as extreme dieting or prolonged religious fasting or some eating disorders could have adverse effects on mental recall, including decreased concentration, poor judgment, difficulty recalling information, difficulty assimilating new information, slowed reaction times. Sound familiar? These are similar problems to those experienced by tiredness. For the majority of students, this will not be an issue, but I will give some advice for people who are starving themselves in the next few slides. For many Muslims, this year, 2017, exam season will fall during the month of Ramadan, which falls between the 27th of May and the 24th of June, although the exact dates will vary depending on the observance of the new moon. Unfortunately, because of this, the last time you will have eaten or drank anything will be before sunrise, which in the summer months can be somewhere between 4 a.m. and 5 a.m. depending on the date and location within the United Kingdom. Although your body can cope without food, during the hot summer months going many hours without water can result in dehydration, which can adversely affect grades, and schools, colleges and the government are very concerned about the possibility of fasting during Ramadan adversely affecting your exams. Examining bodies and schools and colleges do make every effort to try to make sure, where possible, course subjects are examined outside of Ramadan, but it's not always possible to keep every exam outside of Ramadan. Now, my understanding, limited as it is that it's not permissible to break your fast during exams, as it doesn't qualify as a legitimate excuse. But this is something you really need to take up with your local religious leader or imam. If you can't break your fast, and if the exams can't be squeezed in around Ramadan, then please bear in mind there is always the November exam schedule. The best advice I can give if you are going to do your exams in Ramadan, is to be aware of the importance of good hydration and make sure you have had plenty of food and water before sunrise, and try to stay out of direct sunlight and try to wear clothing that will not cause you to overheat. This general advice can apply equally to Christians, Jews, and anyone else who finds themselves fasting on the day of the exam. Check with your local religious leader and make sure you get plenty of fluids just before the start of the fast, and try to stay cool as far as humanly possible in the middle of summer. Eating disorders pose a far more serious problem than extreme dieting or religious fasting, and depending on the severity of the eating disorder, can have extremely adverse effects on exams, although exams may be the least of your concerns. My advice here would be that the stress associated with exams may well make the eating disorder worse, and your first priority needs to be getting well. Since there is a wide range of eating disorders ranging from undereating to overeating to eating things that aren't normally considered edible, I would advise you very strongly that if you think you have an eating disorder, to seek medical help, which here in the UK is both free and confidential. You don't need your parents' permission to go to the doctors, and you don't need to discuss your treatment plan with your parents if you don't want to. Malnutrition is a serious long-term consequence of a poor diet. You don't have to be thin as a rake to be malnourished. Recently, the World Health Organization classified obesity due to chronic overeating as malnourishment. Eating too much food can be just as damaging to mental, emotional, and social health as undereating. The key to avoiding malnutrition is to eat a balanced, varied diet, but if in doubt, ask your doctor to refer you to a dietitian or nutritionist who can help you with things like portion control and advise you on the sort of things to look out for on food labels. In the UK, the National Institute for Clinical Excellence recommends around 5 portions of fruit and vegetables per day, with a glass of fruit juice only counting as 1 portion no matter how many you consume. Around 2/3 of the food you eat during the day should be plant-based food, with meat taking up no more than 1/3 of your food consumption. Products containing refined sugar should be excluded from your daily diet and reserved for special occasions as one-off treats. Try to limit your salt intake to around 5 to 6 grams of salt per day, and try to limit your total sugar intake to around 90 grams a day, with no more than 30 grams being added sugar. On a final note, if you're taking your exams in summer, remember you will need to drink more water than you normally would to stay hydrated. While being a little bit thirsty shouldn't have an adverse effect on your exam performance, being dehydrated most certainly will. The UK government recommends drinking around 6 to 8 glasses of water per day. That's around a glass every couple of hours, but in reality the amount would vary from person to person depending on how much fluids you can absorb from your food. Figuring how much to drink is a difficult decision on exam day. On the one hand, you don't want to be dehydrated and mentally sluggish or fighting off a dehydration or caffeine headache during the exam, but on the other hand, you don't want to be running to the toilet either. I recommend you try to drink normally, but take a bottle of water with you into the exam so that you can sip it if you feel thirsty. Check with your examination centre beforehand, but it should be permissible. Taking the odd sip of water during the exam might also help with another mental block issue called Einstellung, which will be covered in a future video. I do hope some of this advice has been useful, and good luck with your exams, and I'll see you in a future video.